Well, a lot of times it starts with a melody or gibberish, you know, and sometimes I get lucky, and when I open my mouth, a lyric comes out that sticks, and it inspires the whole thought process behind the song. There's no real formula to it, because when Steely and I wrote September, he sent me. We were actually listening to this last night. He sent me just him on an acoustic guitar singing something with the word "remember" and "September" in it, and that was the only two words from that line that it sparked the entire chorus, and it immediately made me think about, you know, childhood, and it inspired all these thoughts, where there's other times where I've got this melody in my head and it goes nowhere, and I'm constantly racking my brain over where to go with it, and then somebody else will say something and I'll be like, okay, there's that. So, or when we were doing Tennessee Line, he thought I said something that I really didn't, but it ended up becoming the lyric, because he thought I said something about going to LA, and I don't know what I was saying. It was probably just, you know, I was speaking in tongues or something.
Hell in a handbasket.
Hell in a handbasket, and hey, and he was like, let's talk about geography. Let's say you're headed here, but you stop here and turn around. So it's very spontaneous on how these lyrics come about, and you'll think of something that makes you think about an event that took place in your life, or something that you saw with a friend, and you'll say, hey, let's write about that, you know, or you'll write an entire song and go, the hell does this mean? And then 2 years later you'll go, oh, that's what that song was about.
Yep.
No formula, you know, they're really.
But most of the time you start with a melody and then you write the lyrics.
For the most part, I've never been one to sit down and just write out lines. Brian, on the other hand, will write out concepts and lines and never have a melody to it until later. You know, so I think everybody works in different ways. No, I think if it's taken that way, I think the point's being missed. I think the reason that is the name of the record is there's a song called September, and there's a line in the song that says, we knew we had to leave this town, but we never knew when and we never knew how. But it's, for me, it was growing up in this small town that there's really no opportunities for anything outside of that town to ever happen. So I knew, for me, in order to do something with my life, I was going to have to leave that town. And but also there's people that want to leave their town every day and start over and have a new beginning. And I think that also was fitting for the record as well. You know, a lot of people use it very loosely. I think speaking for all of us, we all believe in God in some form or fashion in this band. But I do consider myself a very spiritual person, but that's a personal thing for me. And a lot of that does show up in my lyrics just because of how I view life in general. So, but we're never you know, the subtlety of the way those things show up is never to sway a person one way or the other.
Yeah, we're not trying to talk anyone into being Buddhist, you know, or Christian, or anything. You know, I think that's a lot of that mystery that we like to be able to keep to ourselves, and you know, to be able to say, God knows we tried, is true, because we did.
Well, for me, one of the songs I enjoy playing the most is September, with the one he was talking about, the title the record came from. I think that's a great song to play on the guitar. It's kind of intricate, but it's got such a emotive vibe to it that it does something for me personally. There's some other tunes I have a lot of fun playing. There's another song called "You Don't Belong," which is a song that we've been playing for, I don't know, probably a year and a quarter now. And it was also a tune that we opened up we did an opening slot for Bon Jovi for their whole U.S. leg of their tour. We opened up our set with a song that nobody had ever heard before, which was kind of a weird thing to do, but we did it, and we got a crowd immediate reaction from it, and based on that reaction, that song went on our record. In fact, it is the first song on our record. It's a little bit more of an edgy song, but it's got a lot of energy, and I think Chris's vocal on it is a pretty soulful vocal performance as well. So it's one of the first songs we all kind of collectively thought was worthy too, of being on the sophomore record.
The pressure mostly was, how can we make an album as a band that supersedes that last album? The pressure, we put the pressure on ourselves, I think, mostly.
For us, we just, I think the obstacle is always writing the best song you can. And for us, it's all about the songs. First and foremost, if we don't have good songs, then it doesn't matter how the record sounds. So we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to write the best we can write. And that's all we can do, and that's all we can really say for any other acts. Just, it's all about the songs, write great songs.
Never settle for mediocrity, because you can always push it further.
Well, the biggest difference is everybody in the band played on this record, and even have co-writing credits on the record as well. We made this record together. The first record, I had to go in and do the record right after the show. We had a deadline, so the record had to be finished at a certain amount of time. And so we auditioned the band after the record was being completed. And this time, we spent all this time on the road together, and then we go in and make a record together, from start to finish, as a band. I think that's the biggest difference. And there's a natural maturity as far as songwriting and our sound as well, but the biggest difference is that we did it together. Howard, obviously did such a great job with the first record that it only felt natural to go back. I think because he did such a great job, it just felt like, it's not broke, don't try to fix anything, let's go back with him. He obviously has an ear for making these songs the best they could be, whether it be arrangement or just production tricks or whatever. But he's really, his sole focus at the end of the day is vocal performance, and if that's not hitting it, he could care less about the rest of it, and he wants to make sure that the vocals are the absolute best that they can be, and he worked me, to the bone pretty much, but it got the best stuff out of me, so that I respect him for. I've heard albums before where I feel like the vocals were totally overlooked by producer, and it just didn't, I've heard records by one group on one record that sounded phenomenal, and then I've heard another record and I was like, man, it just didn't get the same out of him, and he definitely gets the best out of me.
I think we had a great time in Singapore and Indonesia and in Malaysia.
Australia.
Because, and especially in like Singapore, fans were just crazy for this music. They were freaking out. Like they couldn't believe that we would take our time to come, especially in the Philippines as well. We took our time to come to their country, and so they gave us just this reaction we could never have expected. So
Giving you some energy back.
absolutely. And so and we have gigantic shows in the U.S. where 50,000 people are also giving us everything they've got. But it's so nice to go somewhere so far away, fly for 18 hours, and they love you there. Wow. So
Our demographic seems to vary depending on the country.
Okay.
He was talking about Singapore. I noticed all of our fans in Singapore are younger kids. I would say between the ages of 12 and 23, probably. In the States, our demographic seems to be
From 12 to 45.
Yeah, but it's heavier on the adults rather than the kids. So and it just seems to vary a little in every place we go. I notice like over here in Europe, it's seems to be just like generally speaking like people in their 20s to 30s that like us here. It's very weird how we connect with different people in different regions. You know, I can't really explain why it is that way.
All right.
Maybe those are the people that are more in tune with their emotions or something. I mean, I know a lot of our songs pull on like real events, real things that have happened to us in our lives, and maybe those people are the people that are more in touch with themselves.
I think, unfortunately, we do know our power, and that's why we have to be very careful. It's a very I don't think it's a feeling we'll ever get used to, being on stage and having the control to have the crowd either jump up and down or yell as loud as they can,
Or be completely silent.
Or
I mean,
vote for that presidential election, or do things that are powerful. You know?
yeah, or support a cause that we believe in. So because of that, it inspires us to have something really great to say, because we know how many people are listening. So with that, we're aware of it, and we've witnessed like the outcome of us saying, hey, this is a cause that we support, and thousands of fans coming out and joining a cause and sending donations to a cause because we said it was a good thing. Now, obviously, they did their research, but it's pretty amazing when you're in this position. People like Bono have done it. You know, they use this position of power to have something great to say. I think if anything we miss is, I mean, we could say normalcy or you know, normal life, but we really wouldn't miss that because we love what we do, and we get to do very extraordinary things. But privacy is definitely something that we get very little of these days.
Yeah, and then you miss watching your kids grow from day to day. You know, we all have little children, and it's really, that's the hardest thing about touring, is knowing that your life's going on without you at home.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing your wife's having a hard day and you wish you were there to help her, or give her a foot massage, or maybe scrub the back. You know, so I miss that a lot.
Much like he was saying, the thing in my life that the thing I probably miss the most is the simplicity of coming home at the end of a workday, and something as simple as like having dinner with my family and catching up on what they did that day that was interesting. Even though during those times, that was when I was the most hurting for money. You know, I had the most hardship in my life at that point. But I do miss the simplicity of seeing my kids at the end of the day, you know. But I couldn't really trade this in for anything, what I'm doing now. Because in all actuality, I probably get more time with my family now than I've ever had in my life. Because before, I was literally working 3 jobs, you know. So if I was able to come home for dinner, it just meant I had to go back to work in an hour, you know. So now when I'm home, I'm home. Like, I have nothing to do except be at home and play with my...
time.
Yeah. So me and my kids can go to the park, you know. We can go, you know, go to a movie, do anything fun, you know. It's great.
So all of you already have kids? Or?
Except for our drummer, Joey, we all have kids.
As far as we know, he doesn't have it.
As far as we know.
We've got a U.S. tour starting in August, and we're going to tour throughout the end of the year, and then hopefully come back to Europe next year and do a tour. We'll see how the record does. Everything's all kind of based around that.
And in the immediate future, Starbucks coffee. Couple minutes.
All right.